Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman alongside my co-host, Evan Macedo of Sapers and Wallack. Great to have you with us today.
Always a pleasure to be here, Jonathan. We have interviewed so many wonderful people together, and we're continuing to find amazing guests to have on the show.
Excellent. Do you want to do the introduction for our next guest up?
Absolutely. So I have the pleasure of introducing John Cohan, corporate partner of Gesmer Updegrove. Welcome, John.
Great. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
It's a pleasure having you on. John, you talked about before we started this segment that you were on many years ago, back in the horse and buggy days.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It was probably maybe 8 or 10 years ago that I was actually in the studio. So,
uh,
a little bit low tech back then, but now this is definitely a high tech version of this, which is great.
Excellent. Good to have you back on. You want to tell us a little bit about your practice within Gesmer Updegrove?
Sure. So my practice is really kind of spans a spectrum of from emerging companies to forming those and getting them trying to at least secure financing for them, and then kind of catapulting them to the next level, and then providing them general counsel as they move through their company life cycle, and then with hopes that there is a pretty successful exit at the end. I'm able to handle, the M&A transaction as well. So whether they are actually acquiring companies or they're going to divest and they're going to exit and go on to something else, a lot of experience in handling that too.
So full life cycle, so to speak, from
From
inception
cradle to
all the way
exit.
through exit. Yep.
Exactly.
And a lot of that financing is institutional capital, is debt financing, is all of the above, depending on the
It's kind of all
stage.
the above. I mean, recently, more so than anything else, we've done a lot of debt financing, whether it's convertible debt, but we've also do quite a bit of SACE. So, for the contract for future equity really is what a lot of folks are doing now, because you can do that in a non-priced round. So a lot of the emerging companies, they don't necessarily want to have a valuation right out of the gate, and it kind of kicks the can down the road and gives them the ability to work on and to cultivate that valuation for something later, and gives those initial stakeholders the ability to convert at a pretty favorable valuation, or a discount price. So those folks that took the risk at the very beginning are actually getting a reward when the company starts to do that.
And that is based on a pre-established formula for valuation down the road? Is that generally the
Yeah,
way it works?
normally it depends, right? So it's like the lawyer answer, it depends. It depends on exactly where the company's at, its life cycle. Does it starting to generate its own organic revenue? Does it have IP? What are the assets? Kind of what they look like? And naturally over time, hopefully that's gonna increase, and the company's gonna do better over time. And rather than locking itself into a valuation early on, which can be a jump ball in a lot of respects, I think it gives more certainty to the valuation as time goes on, and then as you grow the company, as you bring on employees, as you grow the customer base, you increase that IP portfolio. All of that is going to add to that evaluation.
And John, there's a lot of obstacles to navigate when you're doing an M&A deal. When is the right time where somebody should come to you to seek your advice?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, a lot of times if we're working with the company over a period of time, then they're working with us kind of hand in glove. But if it's a prospect or a new client that's coming in, typically for an M&A transaction, we want to get in there pre-LOI, right? We want to be able to talk to them and counsel them and help them negotiate that LOI, because that really sets the table or sets the tone for the transaction. And while the LOI contains a number of business terms which are essential, it also contains a number of legal terms or legal provisions that are going to be helpful and are going to allow for that transaction to move quicker and to be more of a seamless migration into the documents. So getting in early and often prior to signing the LOI is really probably the ideal place to be, the place to commit.
And I wanted to touch upon, speaking of moving deals along a little bit quicker, there's been a lot of changes in the M&A field of what the process looks like. Interest rates are high, which has been taking a little bit longer. There's been more due diligence. But with the use of AI, I've been hearing that the due diligence process is actually somewhat getting a little easier utilizing certain tools. Have you been seeing that in any of the deals you've been working on?
Yeah, we're just starting to see that come to light now. I mean, AI is still somewhat in its infancy stages, although it's accelerating pretty heavily now. And if anything, if any part of the deal for an M&A transaction where we see AI being used is in the diligence process. Diligence, as you probably know, is pretty rote. It's a methodical way in which a buyer can see under the hood for the seller, and depending on how many documents, how much materials are in that diligence, AI has the ability to analyze and to go through a lot of those materials and documents in the fraction of the time that it would take a human to do so, and with pretty good accuracy, pretty close to 100% accuracy for what it's doing. So it can not only inspect, but it can also focus in on particular provisions. For example, if a company has a number of contracts, it can focus in on whether or not there is a requirement for consent to assignment of those contracts in an asset. So you can program some of this stuff in order to be able to focus in on a particular area, and that just makes it that much more efficient in what it's trying to accomplish in diligence.
Fascinating. So as long as you set it up and I guess define the parameters, AI has the ability to parse that information much more quickly than humans.
Yeah, I mean,
and look at many variables at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, AI kind of is trained off of itself, right, through large language models, and it's able to almost perform as closely to a human as possible. And as time goes on, I think that's going to get even better, maybe even scarier. But it's still something that, again, as I was saying earlier, it's still in its infancy stages. But I think there's a lot of room for it in the M&A transactions, not only from a diligence perspective, but from even pre-deals through valuations, and trying to figure out kind of what the business parameters, what the economics or the commercial terms ought to be, based on what the company's at and what their value is.
And I would think another area that would be interesting is modeling, the ability to model things, because, we know modeling is an imperfect science as it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, so the investment bankers, when they're trying to model, they're trying to model the sale and what that would look like. AI is starting to take a big role on that. Again, if you have these, kind of rote methods that you go through in order to, and it's kind of, a tried and true model that you've used in the past, it's pretty easy to train AI to be able to do something like that. And again, in a fraction of time and close to, if not better, accuracy.
John, when you're looking at helping different customers navigate the M&A field, are there certain industries that you're particularly focusing in on, or anything that you're seeing more or less of?
So it's funny. I mean, I'm pretty agnostic from an industry standpoint in M&A. I mean, Gesmer overall is very much in the high tech space, right? So to the extent, and naturally, we're dealing with clients that are in high tech. I have a high tech background, so I like that area. I like that space. So we tend to kind of migrate toward that space. But again, I've handled deals from anywhere from kitchen appliances to brick and mortar to software to healthcare to life science. So we can do all of that, but I think our main gist is really in the high tech space, mainly software, SaaS type companies, for the most part.
And what would you say is the top competitive advantage that yourself and your Gesmer team is bringing to the table in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think one of the main things is we're senior lawyers that are dealing directly with the clients throughout a transaction and throughout the company's life, right? So while we do have the ability to push work down because it economically makes sense, it's feasible for the client. You're dealing with senior attorneys that have years of experience, that have been through, lots and lots of deals, lots of transactions, have seen a lot of different issues, and can add value to the transaction. And we pride ourselves in that. I mean, a lot of us are pretty big law refugees, so we are, we've seen we've seen how that works. We've been there, done that kind of thing. But we bring a lot of those expertise into the small to mid-sized firm, and we're able to give the client, that value at a price point that's not really going to break the bank. So.
As they say, John, don't look at our hourly, look at the value, right?
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
If it takes us half as much time because we know what's coming down the pipe, then there's a better chance that we can solve your problem in less time. So.
You could be my great spokesman, Jonathan, if you want.
I'd happy to tag team with you, John. Anyways, John, it's a pleasure having you on, learning more about your practice, about Gesmer Updegrove. I know you guys have a great reputation within the technology space and many industries, as you cited. If people want to reach out to you, find out more about you, find about your practice, how you can be some help, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, so the best way is probably right on our website. So www.gesmer.com. And then if they want to reach me directly, it's john.cohan@gesmer.com.
Wonderful. It's been a real pleasure seeing you again and having you on Radio Entrepreneurs, and love to maybe have you on with some of your client stories and talk about their entrepreneurship journeys.
Next time that would be great to have some war stories and mix it up a little bit. That'd be great. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Our guest has been John Cohan, corporate partner of Gesmer Updegrove, alongside my co-host Evan Macedo of Sapers and Wallack. It's been great having you guys on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.